So we're joined by James Griffiths, director of The Ballad of Wallis Island. James, thanks very much for joining us. My first question is, where can I get the red cardigan at the start of the movie? Because that looks very nice.
Yeah, that's Gabrielle Yaxis, who's our costume designer. She's really good at finding sort of vintage pieces. And she'd found this vintage knitwear, a lot of vintage knitwear. So it was a one-off. But then she also had someone make some version, because obviously it's like you can't just have one thing just in case it gets lost or damaged. So yes, she's amazing at finding kind of small pieces from around, like fishing around secondhand stores, which is perfect for Charles. But yeah, so there isn't one out there, unfortunately. It's a one-off.
I'm going to need Gabrielle's number then.
Yes, you're gonna. Yeah, absolutely.
So back to the movie. 18 years or so since the short film. Talk to me about the journey of that 18 years. Did you ever come close to making it before now? Was it on and off, or was it just a case of it took this long for it to come back around again?
Yeah, we on the back of the short film, we were sort of put into a development cycle generously with Film 4, and we were teamed up with Big Talk Productions, you know, Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz, and we went through the sort of 3 years of developing our short and trying to make a movie with Tom and Tim as the kind of central characters. But at the time, and I think just because it was our formative years, we were a little bit sort of lost as to where we wanted to take the direction of the next film. And we actually wrote a film about China, which we then found out we couldn't film in China because there was content in there that they didn't want to film. So it was a long... We all kind of slightly got disillusioned with that process of development, I think. And what we really wanted to do was make a film together again, which was as kind of small as our short film. But what we were being encouraged to do was make a bigger version, a bigger film. So it took a while for us to recover from that process. And then we all went off and did various things, but stayed in touch. We'd have a lot of chicken charcuteries and curries discussing how we were trying to crack the next film. But really, it was COVID, because I'd been away in the States for nearly 10 years making pilots. Tim was doing his live stuff, and Tom was making TV. And during COVID, we got together. We actually got an opportunity, having stopped for a bit, to kind of take stock. And naively, we sort of said, well, look, we could go back to our short because it's just the three of us could go and make it, you know, and make the film. So they went about writing the screenplay for the expanded version, or the film version of the short. And I guess in that process unlocked this part of the story that was which was really essential to kind of open up and expand the characters, and that was Nell and Herb's past, which wasn't present in the short. So I guess that was the kind of linear version of it. Obviously, there's a lot of creative journeys for all of us where we ended up where we ended up, but yeah, it was a long time, but we weren't spending 18 years on the movie. It was kind of in two bursts, really. But I'm really glad we actually got back to it, because it was becoming quite painful, sort of thinking about how we hadn't taken on this thing that we all really enjoyed and were really proud of, and hadn't managed to kind of crack it. So the fact that we actually got to do that was incredible. Yeah, really, really a relief.
Something that always strikes me as being a difficult thing to quantify when it comes to filmmaking is tone. Like, you can hear sound, you can see the visuals, but tone is something that's hard to describe and hard to quantify. As a director, how do you manage the tone of a film like this? Because it's managed brilliantly, like the comedy and the heartfeltness of it. As a director, how do you balance that tone for a film like this?
I mean, it's the sweet spot for me. It is the tightrope that you're trying to walk between kind of comedy and drama, or those kind of elements. And it's hard to, it's very difficult to talk to them as two sort of separate entities, really, because really it's a seeking of truth in the situation. We're trying to find a kind of a human truth in those moments, and it's a very delicate balance of when we're getting to a point where things may be pushing sentimentality, or we're trying to pull back from that and undercut it with comedy. And similarly, if it's kind of we're just hitting jokes, we then want to make sure that it's still driving emotion and story and character. So it's really interrogating all the elements to make sure that we are kind of walking along that very fine line, and it's a very fun space to inhabit because it's kind of dangerous to get it wrong either side. And I'm not sure you always get it right, but there's certainly a kind of fun in searching for it. The biggest, I guess, the thing that's served our film the best is the time we've had together with Tom and Tim. Have this kind of great chemistry, and really it's about for me as a director, it's trying to capture that chemistry, but also kind of steer it so that we make sure that we're always kind of driving story and all those things that kind of the whole is going to feel, right, rather than just kind of focusing on scene by scene being the funniest thing. It's like, how do we modulate it and make sure it's still the journey of a film?
Yeah. Working with your two leads, who are also the two writers of the movie, what's that like? Because obviously not every movie, that doesn't happen on every movie. So when you're directing your two lead actors, but they're also the two writers, what's that relationship like on set?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, it's my relationship with Tom and Tim has been forged over time, and working a lot on various mediums. Like, we did a lot of sketch together. So in that medium, it's very fast, and you sort of have to stick in your lane, I guess. You know, they have to focus on being actors, and I have to focus on moving the camera, and you're moving very quickly. So in that space, you develop a lot of trust over time. And I think, I really respect their role as writers and actors, and I try and set them up for success when they're acting. I love the process of that, and I think they trust me to put the camera in the right place and deliver our day, and that's part of being a director, isn't it? It's not just kind of filming these scenes, it's also about making sure that we can get the next scene and the next one. So we kind of stay, when we're on set, we have a very disciplined approach. And there's always room for ideas, and we always kind of pitch things in. But really, a lot of my job there is kind of just making sure that we're getting the script and we're interrogating everything that's happening, and we believe it. And I've put the camera in the right place to tell the story and make them shine as characters.
Yeah. At the channel, we're big fans of physical media. If you were ever to record a DVD commentary for the movie, what scene would you be most excited to talk about, and why?
Oh, that's a great question. I did back in the day, I did a couple of DVD commentaries for TV shows and things I was involved in. I really enjoy them. There's something really kind of geek out about. Yeah, it's always fun to revisit those scenes and kind of get into everyone's mindset, because you'll have such a different POV of what's happening in that scene, and something that might be really challenging for me because, something hasn't arrived on set, and I now have to figure that puzzle out. Tom and Tim have a whole different experience because they're just in a makeup chair waiting to come to set. So, but they're all different. But the one that I guess I'm really proud of is there's two, actually. There's two dinner scenes, and they're actually very simple scenes, but I think they capture the tone. There's the first scene where they're all together with Nell, Michael, Herb, and Charles, and Charles reveals that he's paid Herb more money than Nell, and I just think there's a lovely movement to that scene, a lovely dynamic that was lovely, was really interesting to kind of modulate through the scene as we filmed it. And then the scene where Nell and Herb play music to Charles for the first time, and that was incredibly moving to be there on set, because I think it meant so much to all of us that it was the moment where we sort of landed together and realised we were making our film. It was like, oh, we're here. And so much of the build-up is always just kind of consumed by the logistics and making it. And then I got a chance to sit back and watch my friends do their thing, and that was really, really fun. So that would be fun to talk about. There's probably loads more where things were broken. I had a wetsuit, a dry suit that was supposed to be a dry suit when I was in the sea. It was supposed to keep me dry for like 3 hours, and it leaked immediately. So I was in a cold, wet, dry suit for 4 hours in the sea. It was a challenge. The tide, the physicality of filming was a real challenge. So those things are kind of fun little stories, I guess, around just logistics of filmmaking, which I think are fun for an audience to hear.
Absolutely. Last question before we let you go. Sticking with the theme of physical media, do you remember your first ever VHS or your first DVD?
Oh, yeah. I think my first VHS was Life of Brian. Yeah, that was my first VHS that I had. I remember my dad bought me a Life of Brian VHS, and I love that movie so much. So, and I think like DVD is tricky to remember. I think it was actually a boot de souffle. When I was at art college, it would have been that time where I started to explore sort of the Criterion and Tartan collection of movies, and I was kind of at art college and being introduced to different kind of directors and stuff, and I was exploring. Godard I was a huge fan of his truth and how he captured life on film and the romance of life on film. So yeah, that one.
Brilliant. James, got to let you go. Thanks very much for your time and congratulations on the movie.
Thank you so much, man. It's lovely to talk to you. Thank you. Thanks, James.
Right. Thank you very much, mate.
You're brilliant.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to dig out the YouTube.